The Framer has given a big update of custom fonts. So in this video, we are going to see about those custom fonts. I have divided the video into 3 parts. That is, the first one will be the introduction on the form builder. The second one is creating our own custom forms. And the third one is creating the input field components. Without making much delay, let's get into the video. In order to get the forms here, I'm going to the insert. Here, search it as form. From here, you can see all the bunch of elements. The top one will be the form builder. Just click and drag and place it here. Here you can find the forms. Inside it, there will be a label. And again, inside it, there is an input field. So let's get into the canvas. So this name will be the label, and here this is the input field. Now coming to this input field, we can find the styling to it. Here we can give the font, weight, size, line, alignment, letter, everything here. The next we can give the color to this input field, that is for the letters. The next one is the placeholder. Just choose the needed color for the placeholder. Even we can adjust the opacity of it, that will be applicable for the entire input fields. The next one is fill color, that will be applicable for the whole input field. So from here I can choose the needed color. The next is the radius. We can apply the radius to it. And the next is the padding value. We can adjust the padding for this input field. Next one is the border. The next is the shadow. We can adjust the x-axis, the y-axis, the blur color, even the spread. So if we have made the styles to it, we can replicate that styles to the other fields just by doing copy styles and pasting the style here. Just paste the styles. So everything we have done in this input field will be applicable to the other fields. So we have seen about the styles that can be given to the input field. Let's get into this input. Here we can choose the type of that input field. It can be text or text area. If I click on the text area, you can see their design here. Next is the email. So the input type will be based on that email. And even we can give the numbers, phone numbers. The URL can be provided for the input field. The date, if I choose it as date, you can find the design something like this. Let me preview this. So if I click on here, you can choose the date, month and year. And then there is a time. So for the time, the design will be like here. Let me preview this. So based on it, the timing can be given here. So that we have seen about the input type. And next we can give a name for that input field. So for example, this type is text. We can give a name for it as name. If it was an email, we can change the name to email or something or anything you wish. The next is the placeholder. As you can see, the placeholder is Jan Smith. Here you can type it as enter your email. So if I make this, that will be displayed as a placeholder. And also we can specify whether that input field should be required or no. So if I make it as required, then this particular input field will be a compulsory field. And next, here we have a plus icon. Let me click on it. Here you can find a bunch of options. You can make use of the autofill and an autofocus. So by default, it will be in a focused state. Let me preview this. So by default, it will be in a focused state. Even we can make this particular field type to be hidden also. And from here, you can choose whether it should be hidden or no. Even we can provide the max value and min value if the type is a number. And for the numbers, we can even able to set the step. In order to give this input field a value, we can set it as a value. Here we can provide the value for this input field. So these are all the options available for this input field. Next, let's see about this button. So if I double click on it, we are getting into this component. Here you can make the styling to this button. It can be anything you want. Even you can provide with the hover color and the pressed color. The loading components can also be given here. The disable option can be given, and there is a success message and there is an error message. So every styling can be done inside this component. So this is how it will be like this. Coming to the form state, you can set the variant of this loading and also a success. For the loading, let it be the loading, and for the success, let the variant be the success. And just by clicking on this plus icon, you can find the error message and also an incomplete message. So for the error message, we can set the variant to error, and for the incomplete, let it set it as disabled. So this is how you can make the styling for this button. Actually, in the previous form, we doesn't have this much of option, but now the Framer has given this much of option for this button. So now we have seen about all the input types and also the styling that can be done for this input, and also we have seen about the buttons option. And next, on clicking on this form, here you can find the plus icon. Just click on it. Here you can find a bunch of options. If I click on text, a new text will be formed here, and there is an option of select. If I click on it, a select option will be created. So their adjustment can be done here. Here you can give the name of it, and also you can provide whether it should be required or no. The options can be found here. Let me select the first option. Here you can set the type to whether it should be text or line. So for instance, let it be text. Here you can give the value for that option, and we can give a title for that options. And also here you can set whether it should be enabled or no. So for instance, let it be no, and also you can set whether it should be default or no. In order to understand, let me preview this. So by default, the select option has been selected, and also it was disabled. That's the option we have given in the canvas. Let me go back. Here is the next option, and here the type is text and the value has been given for that, and also the title has been given, and for the select we have selected as enabled to no, but here it should be enabled, so it has been selected as yes. We have already set the first option to be the default one, so this option should be the no. The same will be followed for the other options. Even we can add the new options. Let it be the line. Let me give the line between these two locations. Let me preview this. So this is how you can do the styling for these options. And even you can adjust the styling under this styles. If you want to change the icon of it, you can change the image for this icon, or even you give the color for this icon. And the next option is radio. Here you can find a radio buttons. So I have selected this radio button. Here you can provide it with the name of it, and we can give the value for that radio button, and also you can enable whether it should be checked or no by default. Let it be no, and for the second one, let it be yes. So let me preview this. By default, the second option will be enabled, and the next option is checkbox. And for this checkbox, there is a checkbox and a text on it. And just I'm clicking on this checkbox. Their options can be editor inside this input. The name can be given here, and also you can make whether it should be checked or no. And also you can provide it with if it is a required field or no. And there is an extra option of autofocus and a hidden, and also the values. So if I have given it as an autofocus, so this particular checkbox is in autofocus. And other extra options are hidden and values. So we have seen about the basic introduction of this form builders. Let's create our own custom form. So this is the custom form we are going to develop with the glass morphism effects. So in order to make it the glass morphism effect, let me create the frame inside it, and let me give the color. So in order to understand the index, in order to understand its visibility, and in order to give the glass morphism effects, we need to give the background blur. For that, I'm just selecting on filters, VG blur, and let me adjust it. it's not showing up. It's because of this fill color. So let me take this out. Even it's not showing. It's because of z index value. So let me give the z index to 2. Here you can see there is a background blur, a light, a glass morphism effect. And let me give the frame name to form full wrap, and let me adjust the radius to 20 pixel, and let's make the layout to stack. Now I feel like I need to give a light whitish shadows at the top and the bottom. So again I need to create another frame. So let me duplicate this and let me bring it inside the form full wrap, and let me name it as form bg white. Position type should be absolute, and I'm going to, there is no need for the z index. Let me remove this, and I'm going to this fill inside this linear, and for the topmost one let me adjust it to 90, and again it should be 90, and let me add the 2 points. Let me give the opacity to 0 and 0, and let me adjust it. And again we need to create a glassy effect, so let me adjust the opacity to, yeah, this will be, so this looking good. It's creating a glassy effect. And coming to this absolute positioning, yeah, this is how we want. And let me select this form full wrap, and we need to give a border. So let me select this form full wrap, and I'm going to the border. Let me select the white color and adjust it to 30%. It will be fine, I think. Yeah, it's looking good now. And now instead of giving the padding value for the desktop, let me create another stack. Let me create a stack over it with the option of Ctrl Alt Enter. So the stack will be created. Let me make it as full wrap. So inside this frame we need to add the form. So with the selection of form full wrap, I'm going to the insert. Let me add this form, and I bring this form inside this form full wrap. Let it bring it at the top. Okay, now make this form full wrap with an height to fill and fit. Okay, and also let's give the max width to 800. It will be fine, I think. And also now we need to give the padding value at the top and the bottom. So let me give the top value to 70 and bottom to 100. It will be fine, I think. And for the right and left, let it be 100. And let's make this form with to fill. I think it's fine. Next, we need to add the title at the top of the form. So for that, let me copy this. The title should be above this form. So I'm just using this form full wrap. Let me paste it and bring it at the top. Now let's give the content to let's get connected. Let the font be inter, medium, and let's give the color to white, and let be the size to 50. Okay, I think it will be fine. So we have designed the basic setup for the custom form. Now we need to design the input fields like this. So for that, I'm just selecting on this label, and now I'm going to create the input field components. So for that, Ctrl Alt K. Let me name it as input field. So that it has been created. Let me give the name to primary, and we doesn't want this label, so let me take this out. Here we need to provide the icon inside this. So let me add an icon by using the passbar icon. Let me bring it at the top, and going to the passbar, let me give the icon to user. Let the color be the yellow with an opacity of 50. And we need to bring it inside this input field. So for that, let me give the position to absolute and adjust it. And also don't forget to pin it for the left and adjust here. We need to make this placeholders somewhere here. So for that, I have selected this input, and I'm going to the padding, and for the left, let me give it as 40. So this looking fine. And now I'm going to the input value and let me choose the color to white, and for the placeholder to white with opacity of 50. Here I'm going to the border. Let me give the color to white with an opacity of 30. Fine. So that we have created something like this, and then we need to provide a star here. That is a compulsory field. So for that, let me again duplicate this poster icon. Let the position be related to, and give the width and height of it to 10 and 10, and give the name to star. Let it be fill and give the opacity 200. And we need to bring it here. Actually, the position has been collapsing. So in order to avoid that, let me select this poster and input and let it make the stack over it. And for the input, let me adjust it. So I have adjusted, and now let me give the name to input field wrap. And again, I'm choosing this poster. Let me make it as another. Let me make the another stack. Let it be another wrap. For instance, let me give this name. It's coming to the direction. It should be in horizontal, but it's not working. It's because of, I think it's because I have mismatched this. It should be here and it should be here. Let me bring it here. Okay, fine. And I'm selecting this wrap. Let's make it to start. Okay, let's give the gap to 4. This will be fine. So that we have made a primary variant which is similar to this. Let me change the name. Let me change this placeholder name to first name. Okay, and now we need to create another variant for the focused. Before that, I'm going to take the focus tile for this input field. So I'm just choosing this input. Let me take out this effect. We are going to create another variant and going to give the interaction between the two variants. That's why I have taken the focus effect. Now let me create another variant, and this is how the focus should be. So let me give the name to focus, and let me go to this input, and for the border let me give it as 80, and for the poster icon let me make the width to 24 and 24, and also let's change the color to white, the opacity to 100, and also we need to shed the shadow effect of it. So I'm just choosing on this input and I'm choosing the shadow. Let me choose the color to white with 30%, and let me adjust the x-axis and the y-axis, and with a blur effect and a slight spread. Fine, it's looking great now. So let me give the interaction between this primary and focus. So for that, instead of choosing this primary variant, I'm going to choose this input, because the framer has provided the FU of the interaction for this input field. So I'm going to the interaction, new interaction. Here you can find the options of focus, blur, valid and invalid. The next is value. Here we have 3 options of any is empty and is set. And for the focus, it should be any. So let me select it as any, and let the transition be once. And we need to set the variant to focus. So let me preview this. If I click on here, it has been focused. And let me type some of the options. But now if I click on outside of this input field, nothing else is happening. We need to take out this glowing effect. So there comes another variant. So for that, let me create another variant. Let me name it as blur, because they have given the interaction options of focus, blur, valid and invalid. So I'm naming it as blur. After I have given the value inside this input text and I clicking outside of that input field, that should be another design. So for that, I have created it as blur. And here let me give the color to white with opacity of 30, and again for the border let me reduce it to 20. Okay, I think it will be fine. And we need to set the interactions of it. So for that, let me select this focus, and for this input field, let me create a new transition. So the transition based on the blur, and if the value is set, the variant should goes to the blur. So let me preview this, how it's working. I'm typing. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. There will be another condition. I'm giving the value. If I click outside this input field, it's working perfectly fine. But what if I click on this, the focus has been found here. But now if I click outside this input field, it's not working. So again, we need to set the interaction. I'm going to the primary. Let me select this input. I'm clicking on the interaction, new transition, and set it as blur, and the value should be is empty, and the variant should be primary. So let's check if it's working. It's not working. It's because of the interaction has not been updated here. So again, I'm going to the focus. Let me create the new transition, set the value to blur is empty, and the variant should be primary. Now let's check if it's working. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. Actually, it's a wanted input field, so that we need to create the invalid variant. So let me click on this primary and let me create another variant. Let it be invalid. So for that, let me go to the input. Let me give the border color to red with 100%, and for the icon, let it be red with 100%, and also for the placeholder, it should be in the red with 100%. So that we have created another variant. I am going to the primary variant. Let me select this input field. Let me create a new transition. If it is invalid, the value is any, and we need to set the variant to invalid. So let me check. It's not showing up. So in order to make it workable, let me change the type to email. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. And if I make the valid input, it should take me to the focus state. So for that, I'm going to select this invalid. Let me select the input field and go to the new transition. Make it as valid, and the value should be any, and the variant should be go to the focus. So let's check, reload. I'm typing it like this, and now let me give it as at Gmail. Yeah, it's working great. Now again, I'm typing on it and clicking outside. It's working perfectly fine. Again, I'm clicking. Now I'm going outside and I'm getting inside. It's going to the focus. So for that, let me go to the input field. Let me take out the other option. Only the valid should be here. Now let us check. I'm giving the value. It's showing as invalid. I'm making it as valid. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. So now we have created the one of the input field. In order to make it as reusable again and again, I'm choosing this input and I'm going to create the variable for the type, name, placeholder, and required. So let me choose this type, create variable, let the name be type, and let the default value be email. And for the name, create that variable, let it be name. And for the placeholder, create the variable, let it be as a placeholder. And for the required, let it be required. So we have created all the variables for the input field. Let me go back and let's duplicate it again. And for both this input field, let me make it as stack and give the direction to horizontal. Fine. And for the first one, the variant will be primary. The type should be text. Let it be first name. Let the name be first name. Let it be give it as required to S. The same follow-ups here. This will be text. This will be the last name. And again, the last name. Let it be a required. Let us check. it's not clicking. It's because of some z index value. So I'm just clicking on this form, and I'm going to the styles and a z index. Let it be 2. Let me check. Yeah, it's working. I'm clicking outside. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. And clicking here, the glowing effect is not showing up. It's because of the overflow hidden. So let me make it as visible. For the stack, visible. Let me check it again. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. So we have given the first name and last name, and we need to add the mail. So let me delete this one. This is for the name wrap, and again I'm going to duplicate it. This will be the email wrap. Let me delete this one. And for this the type should be the email, and name should be email. The placeholder will be email. It should be required. And here we have forgot to given the variable for this postbar icon. So I'm just clicking on this postbar, and I'm going to name and create variable, that is icon name. And for the color, there is no need for it. Let it be like this. And for the user, let it be envelope. Okay, fine. So we have created the names and also the email. Let me check. Let me give it as something like this, and I'm clicking outside. It's working perfectly fine. And Gmail, yeah, it's looking great now. Now let me delete this one. Next we need to add the checkbox. So for that, let me again duplicate this. Let me take this out, this input field. Let me rename it as checkbox wrap. Let me copy this one and paste it inside it, and adjust this to 16. This distribution to be at the start. And let me change the text. And now we need to add a checkbox. For that, I'm just choosing this form. Let me add the checkbox and bring this one inside this checkbox wrap. Now make the distribution to be at the vertical and make the alignment to at the start. Now coming to here, I'm choosing the subscribe to newsletter, and let me make it to white. Yeah, let the size be 12. Yeah, it will be fine, I hope. And I'm choosing this checkbox. I think we doesn't need this focus. Let me take this out. And for the check, let me give the icon color to black. And for the fill color, we need this yellow color. So I'm going here. Let me copy this one. Let me go here, and for the check, let me give this yellow. Yeah, it will be fine, I hope. And for this, let me rename it as web development. Okay, so now let me duplicate it for 4 times. We have copied it for 4 times. So let's create it as grid. Before that, let me copy all the label and make it as stack and give the type to grid so that it has been created. Let me check. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. Now we need to add the text area. So again, I'm duplicating it, make it as text area. Let me delete this grid, and I'm clicking on this form. Let me add a text, bring this text inside this text area. Let me take this out. For the input, let me make it as text area. Inside this placeholder, let me make it as describe your issues, and we need to provide the styling as like these two. So I'm going inside it, I'm copying the style, I'm going back and paste the style. And for the left value, let me give it as 20. It will be fine, I hope. I don't know. Let it be 15. Nope. 10 will be fine, I hope. Okay, fine. And for this, let me give the minimum height to 200. 150, I hope. Okay, 150 will be fine. Now adjust the gap. Let me give it as 30. Okay, fine. So we have made a basic setup. Next, let's go to the submit button. So let me go inside it. So for the default, let me give this yellow color. Let me give that yellow color. and for the submit, let me make it as black, and for the hover, set it as reset override and adjust it. And for the loading, go to the conic. For this, give it as black. Let me check. Okay, fine. And for the width, let's set the width to 80%, and for the form, let's make it to the center, so that we have created the custom form. Now let me do the adjustment to it. Web development, and this will be web design, and this will be the graphic design, this will be digital marketing. Let me delete this one, so that we have designed this contact form. So after collecting all the details and making the submission, it should take me to the thank you page. So all the data should be stored somewhere else. So in order to do that, select on this form, and here form you can find send to. So by clicking on it, you can make it as email. So in here email, you can make the recipient and give the name, and we can give the subject to it, and you can give the body messages. So once a submission is made, it will give the message to this recipient mail. And then we have the web hook. Here you can give the API URL, and then we have a Google Sheets. The fallback should be one of my mail, and here you need to connect it to the Google Sheet. If I click on here, it will take here, and you have to choose your account, and it will ask you for the permission, and give the continue and again continue, so that it will be connected here. Here just provide it with the form name. Let me give it as contact form, and here the sheet will be created and it has been connected. After doing the submission, we need to provide some of the information to the user. So we can create the separate thank you page. So in order to redirect it to the thank you page, we need to select this form. Here you can find a redirect. So let me click on here. Here you can find a thank you page, and that's it. And let's preview this. Let's see and how it's working. Let me give the name, the same, and the mail. Let me leave it like this and check whether it's working or not. Yeah, it's working fine. Gmail.com. Yeah, it's working perfectly fine. And let me choose one of the options. Okay, let me describe the issue and let me submit. Yeah, it's showing a thank you page. Let me go back. Let me go to the sheets. Let me select this. Here we can find the information in the Google Sheet. So I hope you have found the valuable information about the form builder in the Framer. And also you have learned how to create the custom forms also. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your fellow designers. If you want more updates, and don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to my channel.